Well, good evening, everyone. Muy buenas noches a todos. My name is José Calderón, co-host of Que Viva la Música with Vicky Sola on 89.1 FM WFDU and the Mambo Machine on WKCR 89.9 FM in New York. Welcome to Conversaciones Música, presented by Hostos Center for the Arts and Culture. We have much reason to celebrate this evening with the presence of our guest, Malín Falú, one of the leading figures in the Hispanic world of communications. For over 4 decades, she has shared her vigorous and sophisticated personality through the radio airwaves, continuing to different network programming, making her one of the favorite voices of the Latino audience in the Big Apple and New Jersey. We'll continue to discuss many important details of her career throughout this presentation. Hostos Center events are sponsored by the Hostos Community College Foundation with funds from the National Endowment for the Arts, the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs in partnership with the City Council, the Coalition of Theaters of Color, the New York State Council on the Arts with the support of Governor Andrew M. Cuomo and the New York State Legislature, the Howard Gilman Foundation, the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation, the Office of New York State Assemblyman Jose Rivera, and the Office of New York City Council member Rafael Salamanca Jr. Visit the Hostos Center website at hostoscenter.org, www.hostoscenter.org, to learn more and to view upcoming online events. Well, each time I've had the opportunity to interview the wonderful women of our entertainment industry, my heart soars to great heights of honor and appreciation. I understand and respect their hard work to place themselves in the public eye and the possibility of constraints they may have experienced overtly and independently. However, each one of them has cultivated their craft to great lengths, to a profound degree of respect and consideration from all. They've been able to nestle themselves in the minds and hearts of the audiences across the globe. Such is the case of this wonderfully unique guest I have the honor of accompanying me today. To be in her presence is to feel equal importance and enlightenment. To hear her voice is to hear an angel whisper, yet it is strong in content and character. I strongly remember listening to her programs as a developing child and evolving adolescent, attentively visualizing the imagery of her soft voice filling the airwaves and feeling the sentiments of her delivery. Never would I imagine in my wildest dreams to have the opportunity to be in her profession, but her words definitely resounded within me. I've had the pleasure of knowing her a number of years, enjoying her friendship, partaking in many enjoyable moments, and even sharing the stage in different opportunities to express the love of our culture and our community while presenting featured entertainment. Nothing would bring me such intense joy than to present her to each of you as my honorable guest this opportunity. Let's watch this brief synopsis video of her career and present the delightful Miss Malín Falú.
My name is Malín Falú. I am the host of a national program of public service called Diálogo de Costa a Costa. That means dialogue from coast to coast.
Malín Falú, a very successful Latina role model. She started as a model back in Puerto Rico. Malín was also host of the Puerto Rican version of the TV show Soul Train back in 1973. Malín also worked for many years in Radio WADO in New York City. And currently, she is a TV host whose main goal is to bring her audience topics of social interest for the Hispanic community.
Dígame usted, y aquí tenemos una información.
Here's her story.
I used to come to Radio WADO to advertise or to talk about the shows. In that time, the general manager of the radio station met me, and I was on the air being interviewed. And one day I received a phone call. Can you start tomorrow because we have an emergency? And I say, well, okay. And I started on radio. And that was in 1978. And I stayed for 10 years.
Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Malín Falú. Malín? Welcome, Malín. How are you?
¿Te das cuenta? Porque nadie tiene la responsabilidad de cuidarme que no sea yo. Y en eso, pues yo fui muy solícita conmigo misma y siempre mi careta la usaba. Me vacuné hace casi 3 meses y creo en la vacuna, porque la vacuna es como algo que te da fuerza, que te da energía y te reconstruye tu cuerpo interno.
Absolutely, absolutely. Malín, we have a lot to talk about this evening. We have a lot to learn from you. Let's start from your formative years as a child in Santurce, Puerto Rico. Talk about that, please.
Well, I won't forget those times. I used to study at Escuela Pedro Jerónimo Goico in La Calle Loíza, that I understand now is a civic center for the community. And I graduated from 6th grade, and I remember all the images of a little town, you know, because every place is a little town for you. And I remember the old people. There was a man who used to pick up comida de puerco, no, large food to sell it to restaurants who also make lechones, who we call lechón, and se llamaba Mañengo. Y él me dio ciertos tips, porque a mí me gustaba oír a la gente mayor, porque siempre, I love to hear old people, because they always have something to teach you. And I was so impressed by this old man who was like 89 or maybe 90 years old, and he was in the street and he was walking, because in that way he was walking, and he had some sons that he sent to the university with that comida de cerdo, you know. So we saw how people really, estaba la lavandera, porque antes se enviaba la ropa a la lavandera. Estaban los que vendían, they were the ones who sell carbón. ¿Cómo tú dices carbón en inglés? Se me ha olvidado. Carbón.
Carbón. Coal. They used to sell coal.
Exactly. Para hacer ya sea la estufa cuando era de carbón.
The stove. Mm-hmm.
The stove, that after that it became a gas stove. And I remember all those things with great pleasure, with great appreciation. Las fiestas de cruz, the Saint Cross, you know, the story says that there was almost like a tremble. And the only thing that didn't fall down was a cross that was there. Then they start to sing spiritual and Christian songs to the cross, and they became part of our culture. So all those things I remember, you know, and for me it was a beautiful time. I left Santurce when I was in 6th, 7th grade. Okay. And I went to Rio Piedras to study at the Barbosa School that was next to the University High School. There I stayed for a year because I saw certain things that I didn't like. And I asked my sister to go to register me in another school that was nearer my home, that was in Sabanayana. And I finished 9th grade. Then I went to Rio Piedras, to República de Colombia, and I stayed there for my 3 years of my high school studies.
Very, very nice. You had an incredible and extremely positive influence from your father, who was a civic and political leader in your hometown. Tell us a little bit about him, and did you see yourself following in his footsteps?
Well, he was a leader, definitely. And his father, my grandfather in the father's side, was like visionary because he saw, blacks in Santurce own their own land. As he told me in history, when the English came to that area to try to take it out from the Spaniards, those blacks in Santurce defended the area, and it didn't become an English island like many others in that area. And by that, they were given where they were living. That was their land. And he sold land to send 2 of my father's brothers to study in the United States. One studied in Tuskegee University, the other one studied in Washington University. One became an architect and the other one became an engineer. So the tradition of studying was very uprooted in my family. And my father, he was tall, so he took a scholarship as an athlete and went to the university and studied to be a teacher. But he said one day he was teaching the kids how to raise tomatoes. And he said, I told them, I'm coming tomorrow. And he never went back because he was so in love with us. That was his, it was in his brain. And he was very intelligent. I remember at my home came people, business people, senators, people very important in the community to ask for his advice because he knew everything. He knew the law. He knew whatever it was, he was on time. So I think I pick up from him that need to help other people. Because I was saying, I'm going to be a social worker because my oldest sister was a social worker. So I say, if I grow up, I'm going to be a social worker. And I definitely think that my job at TV communications has been like a social worker, giving orientation, giving techniques of how to live, especially in this city, which is so strong and so difficult,
Absolutely, absolutely. You come from a numerous family, correct? You have many siblings, many brothers and sisters?
Well, my father was the youngest of the 9 brothers, and he only had 1 sister. The rest was men in his family. And I am the youngest of 13 kids that my brother had. 3 didn't survive, they died, and we became like 9, and I'm the youngest of the 9. Others have died also from my family, and I say, well, that's life, you know, everybody will have to go through that same process.
Absolutely, absolutely. But you do it with such faith and such wonderful positivity that comes from you. Exactly. Tell us about your mom.
Okay, my mom was very energetic. As a matter of fact, she received a gift from a sister from New York that was a comb that you have to heat it to straighten your hair. So she was the first one in Puerto Rico, especially in Santurce, who was able to straighten hair to different ladies in the community that were important also, because she became from a family. Her father was a very important person. He was a construction person. And the Calle Pesante, which is my second name, he constructed it. And she used to help her father for the workers, and she was, you know, very energetic. And that's how she raised us. For example, she didn't allow, no brother of us could touch us, like abuse us. She used to say, whoever touched one of the girls, I cut his hand. Yeah. And, you know, because she was so, she was a feminist, I would say, because
very strong.
My father didn't ask her to be in the home all the time. He said, what I need is when I come home, you are there, and the food is there. So, you know, in my house, they have breakfast, they have lunch, and they have dinner. Because here is when, in the States, is when you learn to skip lunch and have a light lunch, have a light breakfast, and have maybe a strong dinner. But in Puerto Rico, like many other Hispanic countries, you have a good breakfast, a good lunch, and a good dinner.
Absolutely, absolutely. Very true, very true, very true. So now we've given the audience, our friends, everyone that's watching, a background of how you grew up in Puerto Rico. And we're going to get a little piece of a video from 1975, something that you've seen many times, and many people might not realize that you're there. And that's practically the start of your presence on TV and on radio. But we're going to talk about that. Let's sit back and watch this video, and we'll come back and we'll continue talking, okay?
Okay.
Reto, queremos darle la bienvenida a la orquesta completa.
Gracias.
Y hay muchas personas aquí que quisieran saber qué tú crees de la música que se vive hoy en día de salsa, del mensaje que lleva.
Bueno, básicamente la música originalmente empezó como música que se dice de bochinche, de la vecina, de María, de Pedro, de Juan, pero ahora la música se está convirtiendo un poquito más profundamente a un mensaje social y mensaje político, y a través de la música se está levantando la conciencia del público más, porque la responsabilidad del artista, según mi punto de vista, no es solamente entretener, sino traer un mensaje válido para el público.
Fantástico, Rey. Eso está muy positivo en términos de cómo puede crecer nuestro pueblo, ¿no?
Exacto.
Fantástico.
Dices que no es
wonderful memories, Malín. This is from 1975. That's Rey Barreto and his orchestra with Rubén Blades, a very young Rubén Blades.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think he was playing with other people until for me, that was his success in New York, to play with Rey Barreto, who was mano dura and
That's right.
The best one in the field.
Absolutely, absolutely. And a young, remembered Tito Gomez as well. People don't know or might not know here in New York that you started in a program. You were a model when you first started your career in Puerto Rico, and then you went to hosting a very important TV show in Puerto Rico called Soul Train, something that was also happening here in the United States. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Well, it's have a little story in the background, because a friend of mine and myself deal with the idea of creating Black agency models, because we didn't see Blacks on television or any type of media, and we call the agency Azabache. That is the black stone that is of good luck. And we start to go to the newspapers to give that type of advertisement of the idea. And I start in El Convento in San Juan, has an interior patio, and there was a lady who had a boutique. So I show her dresses, and she took me to the big ships that went there, and I did modeling with the dresses that were very, the motif was very insular, very of Puerto Rico, and we went to El Nuevo Dia in Puerto Rico, and the director of the feminine section, called Gloria Leal, who I have a lot to thank, because she told me, you have to participate in the Miss Puerto Rico contest, because that's where they are going to meet more, everybody, the press, everybody's there. And suddenly I have doubts, but as I have told before, one of my brothers told me, Mommy, don't participate in that. That's for white people. Black girls doesn't participate in that. And I said, oh no, they don't? Well, then I'm going to do it. Because if we have to break different things, that is one. And I participate, and I was in the 15 semi-finalists.
Wow.
The guys who did the public relations for the contest was Ivan Frontera, who died. And one day I was going to St. Thomas, because my sister used to live in St. Thomas. And I saw in the papers, because we always in the family read the papers, and I saw in that social section that they needed a Black model for this TV show that was going to Puerto Rico. They didn't say the name of the show. I called the guy from the airport and I said, listen, the Black woman you're looking for is me. So he said, oh, I was thinking in you. I said, okay. So I'm going on a trip, and when I come back, I'll call you. And he said, yes, please.
Wow.
Oh my God, sometimes you have to be there, because
spontaneous. Yes.
So what? First I read the papers, and I was very connected with them because they knew me from the contest. And when I came back, I called him and we made the appointment, and we went to the office of the Fusaro brothers. They were the one in charge and who brought this program in Guapa TV. And I was nervous, because it was big, in terms of what the show meant. And it was incredible, beautiful. And I remember we went to the Caribe Hilton to have lunch, another type of life. And the people who were the people who served the tables, they came to me and said, listen, you don't know how much I thank you, because that's the person who they feel connected. Because since that show came, my son is at my home every Saturday at 12 o'clock. So they were appreciating that they have the youth in the home. And I felt so good, so good. I tell you, it was a beautiful experience and the first time. And then I met people that I admire from my home, like a lady called Norma Candal. She used to be one of the stars in Puerto Rico. And I remember I used to say, if I don't know why, if I do a TV show, I would like to be like her. You know, it's not silliness, it's things that are important, that help people, and you don't fall into the vacuum of saying things that doesn't have importance. And then something came and I went to London to study theater in the summer. When I came back, things were different. And then I met someone in New York, and that person went to Puerto Rico to ask me if I wanted to marry him. And he was a director of a TV show here in New Jersey. And I said, well, that sounds interesting. Maybe I'm receiving these messages. And I say yes, and I married with him, and I came to New York. And that's how I came to New York, you know. It was an adventure for me.
And an opportunity. Malín, the show Soul Train, and I have to go back to it because you just detailed something so beautiful of how your transition from communications, from TV came, and then you came to New York. But Soul Train was very important on many levels in Puerto Rico. It was the first program having someone of a darker skin to be on the TV, and you were bringing soul music, actual singers, musicians of African-American descent to play in Puerto Rico. Tell us about some of the artists, and we saw some pictures.
Yeah, it was a combination because this hotel was bringing the famous artists from the States, like Gladys Knight and the Pips. I met them, they went to the studio. I met Little Anthony and the Imperials, Chubby Checker. I met others, you know, Ella Fitzgerald, Dionne Warwick, well, a lot, because it was weekly, that visit. And I took photos with some of them, others I couldn't. And meeting them was a very special occasion because those people are busy all the time. And when you can share with them their brain, what they think, how they see life, you know, it was a unique experience, I tell you.
Absolutely. Very important in your career and to Puerto Rico as well. Very, very important.
As a matter of fact, I start speaking English because we interview them. So we didn't have translation. So I speak English and I prepare my questions, and it was a nice experience also.
Absolutely. We're going to go into a pictorial, a resume of pictures of your career so people can have an idea, and people who know you remember these moments in your career. But let's go to that pictorial with some important music, and we'll come back and we'll continue talking because we have a lot to talk about. Okay? Thank you. Malín, a wonderful resume of moments in your career that we've enjoyed and learned to love and appreciate you. Malín, tell us how you started in the radio in New York.
Wow.
You already told us about the transition coming to New York, but tell us how that started.
Well, I was living in Trenton, New Jersey and New York. When I was in Trenton at night, I was working in a place called Congreso Boricua, where they create laws to submit to the Congress in the state so they can approve them and they can alleviate some of the situation of Hispanics in the state. And I told my husband, who was the TV producer, that I was coming to New York to give him some publicity in the Hispanic media. And I went to WADO, I went to El Diario. They all offered me jobs in El Diario. But at that time, I was living in Trenton, New Jersey. And in the weekends, I came to New York. And in WADO, the director, Luis Armando Feliciano, que paz descanse, heard me and nothing happened. I left, and like 4 months after, I received a phone call in my job if I could come to an interview because they were planning to have a woman on the air. And I said, well, let me go, it doesn't matter. And that was in September. I never called back. I never went there. I say, what is for you, what it is for you, it will come. You don't have to fight. Because I saw people going there every day to WADO, calling every day, like they want a job there, but it was very difficult because people didn't leave jobs like that, you know? And in January, I received a phone call. Can you start tomorrow? Because we have a problem and we need to cover that space. And I say, oh my God, and I say, well, okay. In the work that I was in New York already, I talked to the director and she said, well, go there half a day and come here half a day because the program finished in January. It was a children TV show and I was one of the producers. And I have certain segments. It was a national show that was shown on NBC on Sundays because it was for children. Wow. So I started there half a day and half a day. When January finished, I started the whole day there. And well, like everything is you know, for me it was incredible because being on a radio that was number one at that time, give you some type of responsibility that you have with your audience because I already have that sense in Puerto Rico. So the next day that I was on the air, on a newspaper came like a gossip of me that I didn't know how to improvise, that, you know, criticizing. And I say, oh my God, I have to be strong. The director of publicity in the station told me, come that the owner of the station wants to talk to you. And I said, oh my God. When I went there, Mr. Nelson Laverne, I never forget him because he was very nice with me, told me, listen, I cut all the commercials in that newspaper, so they are not a house of gossip. You are doing very good and keep up doing your work. And I said, oh my God, so good. And I said, gracias, Padre, que siempre, tú sabes, me responde. Y de ahí yo dije, yo voy a mí. I'm going right to myself. And I was very responsible. I never pay attention to gossip because that's the worst thing you can do. Once you get involved, you don't know how to get out, so you better not get in. And did my job, respect my, colleagues, and that was it. And then one day they told me, you're going to the shift of 5 o'clock in the morning. And I said,
wow.
I have to go to bed at 8. But
oh my gosh.
very responsible person, you know, that's what I have been so long in my jobs, because I delivered. And then I started, and I was there for 8 years, until in JIT, Radio Hit, there was an opening because one of the biggest one, Diaz Tirado, was leaving. And I talked to a friend who called Paquito Rivera, who was Paquito, I don't remember if it was Rivera or something else. We met in a place, in a restaurant, and on Friday, I gave my letter of resignation, and on Monday, I was on the other side, because I tried to keep quiet. The only thing on that Friday, I was so happy that I was leaving. One of the engineers said, Malín, you look too happy, what's going on? And I showed him my resignation letter. At that moment, he called my boss in the station. And my boss, a young one, okay, wanted to take me out of the air right there.
Wow.
And the other one, who was the one who contacted me from the beginning, said, let her finish. If she's going, well, she go. And then, right there, I went to the owner in New York of WADO, Mr. Nelson Laver, and I say, listen, I'm not needed here anymore. Who is needed is the one who is coming to take my place. And he say, you cannot stay? And I say, no. Because sometimes I prefer to leave than to stay with problems. There's problematic people. Don't think everything is roses and beautiful things. There's people who are problematic, and I say, I'm going to sleep 1 more hour, because getting in at 6 o'clock is not the same as getting in at 5.
At 5, yeah.
It was in Manhattan. The station, JIT, was in Manhattan. So I didn't have to go to New Jersey. And I started that Monday. After 7 or 8 months, they changed me with Rafael Pineda in a program that they named later Café con Leche. That was very famous because there was a merengue that was very famous called Café con Leche. And we were there for 5 years. And it was a program that had a lot of people who, you know, two personalities that people love, that was good for the audience. Then I was also tired of the morning because I was going to bed very early. I have to go to bed 8 to 9 to be able to, you know, talk the other days, because talk is not easy. And if you don't rest and if you don't eat good, you cannot talk. Your tongue doesn't move. And then I realized it with an experience that I say, okay, he's talking, I don't have any problem. And the next day, I couldn't talk. It was very difficult for me to talk. And I said, if I want to take this seriously, I have to go to bed early. And that was my life for many years, you know, until they changed me to the night at 7 o'clock to 11. And at the beginning, I felt like, that's not my shift, my hour. But I say, but I'm going to be by myself. Oh my God. I did so many things. I put one day that we discussed books, another day that a lot of guests that people bring me because they knew I was going to make the right question. There was a student from Venezuela who was doing his PhD in Russia. Really? And that was the time of the perestroika and all those terms. And he came and gave such a program. You know how much was the ratings of that program in 3 or 6 months? It went up 700%.
Wow. Wow.
700%, because people follow me, and thank God I was there until they sold WADO, Nelson Laver sold WADO to a company from Texas, and the director, whose name is Herb Levine, saw those numbers and say, who is she? I want to meet her because, to bring so many people. The director, Danny Ortiz, called me, Malín, Mr. Levine would like to know you, to meet with you. And I say, okay, let's talk. Why not? I went to WADO 3 months later at night from 8 to 10 to do the same show I was doing in JAT at night. And then I remember when there was a storm in Puerto Rico, people called me from a daycare and I make a marathon. I make a marathon for Honduras. I make a marathon, I was like the owner of my hour. And then some people that I should mention because he helped me so much. La Rosa del Monte, the director, used to send me all the trucks to take them all to the airport.
Well, that's wonderful.
Translate them to send them to the line that was going to be to taken to like Salvador. I make a big marathon for kids, for with books, notebooks.
Fundraisers, very important, very important.
And they never charged me a cent.
That's wonderful.
And I say, my God, I have to give thanks. So many people help because you alone cannot do anything. You have to have people with you working and doing things that you are supposed to do.
Absolutely.
In WADO, I stayed, then they changed me in the morning, and I was in the morning, and then a new administration brought like the new wave of the radio, where people talk with very nauseous language and jokes that were very,
very risque.
And then there was a moment that I say, it's time to go. And I left. I always leave my jobs because I'm very responsible. I know what I'm doing and I do it with love and with respect, And sometimes people don't understand that. And the last time I was in WADO, they wanted to do the public affairs, but I felt they weren't going to treat me as I was.
As you deserved.
And I left, I went home. And a year after, Danny Ortiz, the director of communications from WADO, was in ESPN, the sports. And
he opened the doors. We're gonna hold that idea because this is now the new transition of Malín back into TV. And we're gonna show a piece of your show or one of your many shows on TV. Let's go to that piece and we'll come back and continue discussing.
Yes.
Puerto Rico! So that's what you want to hear, huh? 1, 2, 3, oh.
Bueno, y seguimos con Orlando Marín. Orlando, hay tanto de qué hablar y no es tanto el tiempo. Y yo quisiera, ¿usted quiere añadir algo a esto que se comentó?
Porque es muy importante, porque así es que Dios hace las cosas. Yo estoy ensayando en casa de un músico en el Bronx, cerca de Hunts Point, ¿ok? Estamos en el último piso, el 5º piso arriba. Estamos ensayando. Y de momento se oye la sirena de los bomberos, porque al cruzar la calle hay un fuego, pero mucho bulla. Entonces yo digo, espérate, vamos a ver lo que pasa. Abrimos las ventanas, estaba la calle lleno de gente y bomberos, porque era un fuego bien grande. Y uno de los músicos sale diciendo, ¡ay bendito, Marcela, se te quema la casa! ¡Corre, corre, corre! Y empezó ahí, Paquito Pastor, el pianista, cogió el piano, ping, 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 parapadín, corre Marcela. Bla. Y yo dije, espérate, estamos ensayando para un baile grande, no podemos hacer eso. Vamos a ponernos juntos en la semana y escribimos la canción. Y así fue.
Y ese fue el éxito de mucho tiempo.
Sí, pero nosotros no sabíamos que iba a ser un éxito.
No, nadie sabe cuándo va a ser un éxito,
todos
la
los
verdad.
músicos
Ni Da
ayudaron.
Vinci sabía que iba a ser una gran pintura, o escultura. Pero, por ejemplo, usted que ha ido por toda Latinoamérica, ese disco se ha oído mucho.
Por todo el mundo, muy famoso, especialmente en Colombia. En Colombia yo soy bien grande y tengo muchos nombres, porque mis discos fueron a Colombia ¿cuándo fue? 1961, ¿ok?
Imagínate.
En el 61.
Empezando.
Entonces,
sí.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, aside from having you, Malín, I want to bring to join us someone that is working with you right now, that is responsible for continuing and maintaining you on the air right now. Because now, for those of you who don't know, Malín hosts different shows on different networks. And right now she's working with MNN, which is the El Barrio Firehouse in the heart of El Barrio. But to join us is another powerful woman in the community, Zenaida Mendez. Zenaida, are you going to join us, please?
Sure.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. Moving together, ladies. I want to appreciate you. Very good, very good. How are you, Zenaida?
Muy bien, gracias. Very, very well. Thank you.
Good, good, good. Before we continue, right now, Malín, that was your piece of your first show, your very first show with Palique, which means to chit chat, and your first guest was Orlando Marín, the last Mambo King.
Sí, 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 es un hombre que para mí significa mucho porque está con vida, tiene energía, toca buenísimo. El año pasado, ese año, estuvimos en el parque porque él era el que estaba tocando una fiesta de esas de verano. Y yo decía, wow, ese señor, yo oía de él, pero no lo conocía. Así, para mí fue un gran placer conocerle.
Claro que sí. But Zenaida works with you. Zenaida, you collaborate with Malín.
Well,
Tell us a little bit about it.
I am the executive producer of Palique con Malín. I saw Malín and I said, Malín, you cannot tell me that you're just going to retire. You have to do something. You have a lot to give still to the community. And then I said, well, let's try. And then she got enthusiastic and she said, well, I would love to do interviews so. We started talking about interviewing the pioneer in the Puerto Rican Latino community. And that's the conversation that we had first. And then she came up with the idea, I always wanted to do a program called Palique. And I didn't know what that meant. She said, hablando, talking. And let me tell you, to us, it's been such a pleasure working on 2 years already.
2 years. Wow.
The third Thursday of the month we go live with Palique. And let me tell you, the people that Malín had invited to the show, I mean, from the chancellor, CUNY chancellor, to Malín, well, you name it. And then very relevant, situation right now. She brought people who can talk about COVID, know what's going on. During the Christmas, we brought una parranda.
I saw that.
That is, when we are in a situation that to do with the economy, she brings somebody who can talk about that. And the good thing is, she is addressing issues that affect the Latino community.
That's always been her focus. Malín has always focused on. Malín, tell us a little bit about all the many programs that you've hosted throughout the years besides Palique.
Well, I was in dialogue from coast to coast with in HITN, and that was daily, a daily show for 8 years.
Wow.
We have a production group, you know, like 3 producers. The producer of the whole show was a very knowledgeable woman, Esther Duran. She now teaches in a college in New Jersey. And all the assistants were very good. And the director of HITN in those times was Jose Luis Rodriguez. Okay. And he was very concerned with the community, the Puerto Rican community, the rest, the Hispanic community in general. And we did shows that was from coast to coast. So we have to do themes that were of interest to the people in California, New York, Chicago, Las Vegas, North Carolina. Exactly, North Carolina. I remember one day before that big storm that destroyed New Orleans. What's the name? No, I don't remember now. And I was listening to the radio, and I knew that storm was coming. And someone from that area called me to ask something else, and I say, "Be careful! There is a storm that's coming through your path." And the next day was the devastation. And I said, "My God!"
Katrina, it was Hurricane Katrina. Katrina. Thank you to the person, to Luis, who mentioned it in the chat. Yes.
Yes, exactly.
Very good.
I used to be her guest many times.
Oh, really?
During Women History Month. And that's the reason I mentioned North Carolina, because a couple of times I was in the show, people would call from North Carolina. And I said, wow, this is, you know, she's been, and then when she had the radio show in the sports channel, I said, but that's a sports channel. I said, yeah, but I can talk about anything.
That's right. Not only about sports.
No, public affairs. And one day I brought a guy who knew a lot about football. And that was the first time I understand that game, because that game, I see people running for a ball. And suddenly, you know, there was one who go out of that group and finally got to the end.
That's right.
And now I understand why.
That's wonderful, wonderful. We have a lot of people that are tuning in and watching us. Someone who has been a guest on one of your shows, Telma Itiere Sterling, she says, remember los quincayeros, the iron makers, okay? And speaking of Telma, greetings to you, Telma. We're going to put a piece of a program that you had with her and to hear her message, which is very important. Let's go to that video clip, and both of you stay there. Don't leave. We'll be right back.
Claro. Bueno, Telma, tú que eres hija de un hombre que también es grande en la música, Rafael Itier, director del Gran Combo de Puerto Rico, que ha estado toda la vida en la música, ¿verdad?
Prácticamente.
¿Qué dirías tú que la música le da a la humanidad?
Fíjate, voy a robarle la idea a mi esposo. Mi marido dice que, por ejemplo, la longevidad de mi papá tiene que ver porque el que hace música, el que crea música, el que interpreta la música, la vive. Y si tú vives así, eso ya estás llevándole felicidad a otros. Y el que le lleva felicidad a otros, de una manera u otra también es feliz.
Soy la esposa de Yo Motoro por 31 años. Para mí la mejor experiencia es cuando estábamos en la casa solitos y yo lo podía disfrutar y sentarme con él y mirar la televisión y solamente hablar juntitos y estar ahí solitos.
So you can see that we have bits and pieces of different shows that you've done throughout the years. Ladies, what has been the most difficult topic that you two have discussed on the programs that you have worked together on? What do you think?
You ask her or me?
Both of you, whoever wants to take the floor.
Cógelo, nena.
Because of what's going on with COVID, and the studio was closing, we didn't know how we were going to be able to produce. And, I said, Malín, we're going to continue doing all the production in MNN. And so we had retrained to do it from home virtually. She brought a natural doctor to talk about how to take care of your health, in terms of all those old remedies that we used to do with our grandmother and our mothers, plus everything natural. So it was difficult in the sense that was in the middle of the pandemic. That was like March or April last year. And Malín is thinking her feet and said, wait, we have to do something relevant, something that's going to help the community. And immediately, we did that. We have the program where we have to deal with domestic violence, where we have to do with situation that happens, affect the community as a whole. And she always had great guests, always. I mean, it's a matter of fact, sometimes she moved two people to different topics, and then we say, what are we going to do, Maria? And say, let's take both of them.
Knows how to connect them.
Yes, well, because you see what happens is that, and then when people are visiting from Colombia, from Ecuador, El Salvador, remember, Malín had traveled all over Latin America. She went to Peru, she went to Africa. So people know her everywhere. So when people come from the country, they look for her. And they immediately tell me, oh, so-and-so is here. We had a great astronomer from Peru, live from Peru. Oh my God, that was incredible.
Dios mío.
And that's there when Malín said, he's in Peru. I said, Malín, we have the best studio in New York City.
Six of us.
And we did that show live from Peru. And that was it's not difficult, but it was like in technology so advanced. And people think because we're a community station that we don't have the technology. But not only we have the technology, we have the best team.
Oh, absolutely. And I can attest to that. I can verify, because I was a guest recently, 2 weeks ago, and I was treated like royalty. And I thank both of you for that. I thank so much.
Our production manager, Freddy Pinto, who's from Colombia, Carla Robles, Dominicana, and Tiffany Hill Black is African American. So we have a very diverse team.
United Nations in the house.
That's another, And then we have our people in master control. But Malín has been in my life since I got here to the United States. Because as you know, Radio WADO, everyone listens to WADO.
Very true, very true.
That was the radio station that everyone would listen to. And I remember my parents, before they went to work, 7 o'clock in the morning, Malín Falú, y Rafael Pineda.
Yeah, that's right, that's right. So, Malín, I want to ask you, you also, aside from the many works of communication, you have a very spiritual grounding in your life. Tell us a little bit about your teachings of Reiki and how you've incorporated that into your life and into your profession.
Well, when we began, we talked about my childhood. At my home, we pray every Friday with the books of Allan Kardec. He is a theologist in the spiritual world. And I learned a lot. And when I was 10 years old, my mother died. And it was a shock for me because I went with her to everywhere. And I couldn't sleep and I couldn't eat. It was very difficult for me. I couldn't go to see people singing, for burials. And then when I was grown up, I got into one of the areas of the let's say, mental health, like hypnotherapy, with Dr. Cartagena, who used to come to New York a lot, and I took a course with him about hypnosis. And then there was a conference in California about the hypnosis organization, and I went there. And at the last day of the conference, on Sunday, I went to a conference that I brought all my luggage because from there I was going to the airport. And I don't know what I answered to a question that the presenter was giving, that she concentrated me, and we were there more than 1 hour. I was with my eyes closed. When we finished, I was crying. It was very impressive. And then I came to New York. That same week, my boss told me, listen, someone died who was from the world of media. And we need that you go to give the
eulogy.
Mm-hmm. Eulogy, but to talk to the widow and represent the station. And I said, everywhere I am, I'm the one who have to give the message. And I say, wow. So then I didn't say no, because, I went, but I sit very far from the dead person. And then I went home. A week after, I said, oh my God, I went to that burial and nothing happened. Nothing happened. I was like free from that burden of, that. And then I realized that hypnotherapy helped me. And I said, if hypnotherapy helped me, it can help many people. And the next week, a friend said, let's take a course of Reiki because someone who we know are going to do. And I say, okay. And I went to that course. And I got interested that I took all the courses that were given to the master. I went 2 years ago, I went to Arizona and I have been in upstate New York, I have been in Vermont taking courses. And then I became a Reiki master. And I say, if all those things help me, I know they can help a lot of people. And right now, there is a situation very, very serious. When all those soldiers from Afghanistan come to all over the states, they will need a lot of help.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I say, well, someone is talking to me in the Bronx to see if I can give a mental health course about growth, personal growth and personal efficiency, because we need to learn more about ourselves.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's how I have, after I left, with the ESPN was the last station that I was, because they were going to close the station. They closed the Spanish section. I say, I want to dedicate a lot of time to help people, It's not easy, because I went to several meetings of veterans in the Bronx, and they are strong. My brother, who is a veteran of 3 wars, told me, what do you say to those veterans? Like saying, who are you to talk to veterans, And I say, well, I know I can help. And
absolutely.
Have that clear in your life, you can do it, because they will feel it, because you talk from your throat and your heart. There is a connection.
There is.
Feel it.
And talking about connection, the connection that you have with the audience that is here today with us, many people that say hello. Margie Colon, who was a student, my friend, she says hello, amor y felicidad, saludos y bendiciones. Nancy León, recepcionista de Radio Hit 1480, she says hello. Nidia Marsella says saludos. Rosemary Perez Bell says hello. Debbie Mercado, la hija de Ralph Mercado, says hello. She has a question. I'm going to ask it in a second. Of course, we want to say hello to Thelma Itier Sterling, la hija de el gran Rafael Itier, director de El Gran Combo. Debbie Mercado asks, who would you like to interview in the future? Who do you have in mind to interview in the future?
Well, there's so many things. You know who I would like? Elon Musk. You know who?
Oh, really? Yes.
The richest man in the world. who have created so many things that is incredible. And he, with NASA, is dealing with getting to Mars. That will take time because Mars is not an easy planet.
Topic. Yes, yes.
So they said the red planet, it has different temperatures, or it's too hot or it's too cold. But, you know, they want that. There are like 18 countries. India is one, China, the Emirates, Arab Emirates, the European Union, United States, many countries that are looking to Mars now.
That's right. Video, I want you both to stay there, and we're going to talk about and we're going to bid farewell to everyone, but we're going to watch this video. Malín Falú, La Edad de los Sabios, the age of knowledge. Let's go to this video and we'll come back and we'll wrap up this interview, okay? Stay right there.
Hablar de Malín Falú es referirse a varias décadas en la radio, en la televisión hispana de Nueva York. Hoy, aunque sigue vinculada a algunos medios de comunicación, dedica parte importante de su vida a cultivar también su vida espiritual, ayudar a otros a salir adelante. Es la protagonista de nuestro segmento, La Edad de los Sabios.
Y yo feliz.
Describir con algunos calificativos a Malín Falú después de más de 40 años de vida profesional no es una tarea fácil.
Hoy tenemos un programa muy interesante, ya que el verano prácticamente está
Su
terminando.
voz suave y abrazadora, como su presencia tan caribeña como amigable, son familiares para quienes la han seguido a través de sus programas de radio y televisión en Nueva York.
La noche ya nos arropa después de las 5 de la tarde.
Ella, en cambio, no duda en mencionar la palabra que mejor la describe.
En mi casa se oraba todos los viernes. Y por lo tanto, pues ese espíritu de positivismo se engendró en nosotros.
Fue en ese hogar de Santurce, Puerto Rico, donde la bautizaron Melba Magdalena, la menor de 9 hermanos, pero le llamaron Malín, para recordar a su madre, a quien perdió siendo niña. De reina de belleza y modelo negra de los 70s, a exitosa mujer de medios de comunicación por varias décadas más, pasó a ser también reverenda en metafísica, estudiosa de disciplinas de sanación espiritual y hasta doctora honoris causa en letras, otorgada por una universidad de New Jersey. Es así como Malín ha llegado a definir su filosofía de vida.
El aquí y el ahora, eso es lo más importante, porque la gente pensando en el pasado no vive en el momento presente y pensando en el futuro tal vez se preocupan más de la cuenta.
Hoy, sin la misma carga laboral de otros años, dice entre sonrisas que, aunque no trabaja tanto, siempre está ocupada.
Y hay que ir a visitar amistades, hay que leer su libro, hay que hacer cosas que tu mente esté en acción todo el tiempo.
Entre el estudio de radio, clases de relajación, conferencias y cuánto significa aprender y enseñar lo aprendido, Malín Falú irradia la energía y el optimismo que solo tienen aquellos en paz con sí mismos.
Tú no te puedes ir a tu casa a meterte en un cuarto a llorar tus desdichas. Cuando vienes a ver, pues todo pasa, you know?
Ella es Malín Falú.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, when you are having a good time, time goes very quickly and we're coming to an end of the program. And my heart is full of love and happiness to have shared these moments with you. But I'm going to give Zenaida the opportunity to wish us well and to say how much she admires and respects you. Zenaida, please.
Well, you know, Malín is a role model, especially when you dress, well, non-Black Latinas on television, or you don't hear that voice that reflects our culture. So she's a role model to me.
Wonderful, wonderful. Malín, I want to thank you, but I want you to say something from the heart to the audience that are here gathered to honor and render tribute to you while you are living, because you are a living legend. And you know that I love you personally very much.
Yes, thank you, Zenaida. Thank you for your words. I always have admired you because you are a fighter. And tú debes haber reencarnado en seres de luz. Porque she has the intelligence to know where she's going and also to direct other people. I tell you, read and educate yourself. Don't wait that no one tell you what to do or how to think. Think and take moments for yourself, to talk to yourself, to be with yourself, because that's very important for your strength. And when an idea comes to you, pay attention and listen to yourself, because you have all the questions, you have all the answers. So I just tell you, God bless you, keep up the good work, and keep on fighting, because we are in a society that if you don't fight in a educate and sophisticated manner, because you cannot raise your voice. I have a friend who told me, my mother used to say, when you raise your voice, you don't have the reason. People who don't raise their voice, they are talking with their mind and with their heart, and that's what you have to do. Thank you very much, and thank you for your attention. And thank you, Jose. You have done a marvelous job.
Well, I could only copy and emulate what you have done, what both of you have done. Thank you, ladies. Malín, Zenaida, thank you. Thank you to everyone who has taken the time to tune in with us here with Hostos Center for the Arts and Culture. Thank you to all the staff that has supported this program and all the programs that we've produced within this last year and the year prior. And I want to thank everyone just for taking out the time to even think of us and take the time to watch us and recommend this programming to you, yourselves, your friends, and your family. Thank you. Take care, everyone, and we'll see each other in the next opportunity. Good night.
Good night.